Hello and welcome to Whisks and Legends, a series where I retell a myth, a legend or a folklore whilst baking a recipe that I sometimes, but not always, haven't made before. And today we're retelling the Abduction of Persephone from the Homeric hymn of Demeter. Whilst making chocolate brownies with chocolate ganache on top and pomegranate in the ganache. It's like dark chocolate represents the underworld and the pomegranate in the ganache represents, well, stick around and find out about the pomegranate. Without further ado, let's begin. First of all, we have to get started with our brownie recipe. Before this tale is under tow, first thing we're going to do is take our butter and brown it. Brown it. On, I believe, a low heat. Low heat, indeed. Low heat, indeed. She specifically says not to overdo it. Should just be golden and flecky and caramelized. Alright, that looks good. We'll just leave it there whilst we begin this tale. So, first of all, let's start off with Hades. Hades, the little troublemaker in this tale anyway. You know Hades, the god of the underworld, the brother of Zeus and Poseidon, the ruling trio. Despite Hades' reputation in pop culture as being this evil, malevolent troublemaker, in mythology, he's more brooding. I'm just vibrating today. He's more brooding and keeps to himself. He just hangs out in the underworld. It's usually where he spends most of his time. But it was on one of those rare occasions that he left his misty underworld to the bright chariot-pulled skies on the earth above. On his way to Olympus, he was passing through the plain of Nysa, but what wasn't expected was the sound and sight of oceanid nymphs giggling, frolicking through the flowered fields with their low-slung girdles. But they were not the ones that caught his eye. Haha. No. There was another woman with them, with rosy cheeks, delicate ankles, silk robes, and long hair adorned with pretty little flowers. Sure, he had heard about the goddess of spring before. Who hadn't? But he had never before seen her. Her name was Persephone, and in true Greek mythological fashion, Hades had fallen in love immediately. But there was a problem. There always is. As another figure appeared on the hill, his plans to make his love known were trampled to dust. How is our butter doing? It is looking very yellow. Still, it does not look burned to me. It just looks yellow. We'll keep an eye on it, but for now, we can keep going with the story. So who was this figure who appeared on the hill and caused Hades to panic? Well, this figure was Demeter, with beautiful long yellow hair and a crown on top. She was very concerned with how far Persephone had wandered through these fields and quickly beckoned her closer, where it is safe under her watchful eye. Demeter was the goddess of harvest, and she loved Persephone more than the earth itself. Foreshadowing. This was a problem for Hades. A rather large problem indeed. However, not one to accept defeat over these newfound feelings so easily. Mothers be damned. Hades decided that he needed advice, a plan for this pursuit. To make Persephone, with the delicate ankles, his queen and the queen of the underworld. And who do we think he went to for this relationship advice? And no, it wasn't one of those troublemaking oracles. Not today, no. It was much worse. Hades went to none other than his brother, Zeus. Oh dear. And his advice to the love-struck Hades was probably just as bad as you'd expect. The butter is sizzling away. I'm starting to see it get golden. I'm starting to see a change. Frothy little lady, I wasn't prepared for so much froth. I think underneath this layer of foam, there is brown butter. So what do we do next before we get to Zeus's advice? My God. So we're gonna pour the butter over our chocolate. Stir it until it's mixed. Add cocoa powder and mix again. Oh my God, it looks beautiful. So excited. It smells so good. I felt like nothing was happening, but then it happened all at once. Oh my gosh, I wish you could smell this. It's rather wonderful. And the cocoa powder. Alright, so what was Zeus's advice to his dear old brother? Wait a minute, let me set the scene first. The brothers are together in Olympus. High ceiling halls of white marble and gold. But there is a reason why Hades went to Zeus of all people. And it's not from his experience, if you want to call it that. But also for his blessing. For Zeus is, hold on to your hats, Persephone's father. Bypassing one parent, going to the other, eh? Classic. And in case this family tree is starting to spin its roots in your head right now, then yes, you are correct. That would make Hades Persephone's uncle. And also, Demeter is Zeus and Hades is sister. But anyway, let me just get the next bowl ready. Got 2 sugars, icing sugar and brown sugar, and we're going to combine them with eggs. And we're gonna whisk it for about 2 to 3 minutes until the sugar is mostly dissolved. So Zeus was listening to Hades, stroking his beard, gathering his wisdom, and he decided to give Hades his blessing. But not without a warning. You see, Demeter will not let Persephone go easily. Many immortals such as Apollo, Ares, Hermes, and Hephaestus have all offered gifts of marriage to the goddess, and all of them, every single one, shut down, rejected. So traditional courtship is completely out of the question. Only one option left that they could take. And what was this option, you may ponder? Zeus suggested, why don't you just take her? Problem solved. For if Persephone was in the underworld, she would be in Hades' realm. And no one, and I mean no one, not even Demeter could touch her there. Even better, if Hades can get her to consume some food from the underworld, then she would be bound for all eternity. Zeus requested Gaia to grow narcissus flowers in the field in which Persephone frolics. Narcissus flowers are the flowers of the underworld, and Hades can use them as a sort of gateway, or better yet, a trap door to snare the young goddess within his grasp. This is done. It looks really nice. Little runny, trying to run away. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Next, we're adding our beautiful chocolate butter mixture. Get in there, make the world your own. And so, the day is here. Persephone was heading outside, her dress spinning in the field of flowers, her delicate ankles flashing, surrounded by her usual oceanid nymphs, with the girdles slung low. And she was stopped by her mother Demeter once more. to not wander too far, to stay within sight, for the nymphs to, under no circumstances, leave Persephone unattended. And Persephone's reassurance that all will be well, she just wants to swim in the lake and have some fun. I mean, it's not like the ground is going to open up and immortal horses pulling a golden chariot are going to burst through and steal her into the underground or anything. That would be crazy. In any case, Demeter searched for danger, but she was only met with the beauty of dawn and the promise of a day's fruitful harvest. So Demeter, with the splendid hair, let her be and returned to her duties. On the way down to the lake, the nymphs ran ahead as Persephone was picking flowers, such as irises and hyacinths. And then something caught her eye. She went closer, and then she found a field filled with hundreds of flowers the color of milk spread open at the sky. She cusped the head of a narcissus plant within her palms, closed her eyes as she inhaled its sweet scent. Chocolatey. But then, just at that moment, a deep tremor vibrated the earth, shaking the soil below her feet. Will someone think of the delicate angles? And then the earth splits open, parting through the underworld from below. Hades drove up and through on a golden chariot pulled by immortal horses and swept the goddess over his shoulder. Seizing her, she cried for her mother, help, and even for her father Zeus to intervene. But neither Demeter nor Zeus heard her cries. She was taken deep below where the sun does not shine, and behind them, the earth closed back up as if it never happened. But there was someone who heard her, goddess in a cave far away, and a god up in the sky who saw the whole thing. Alright, time to add the flour. Flour. Get out of here, Whisk. Your time is over. Whee! Alright, so before we return to above on the earth, where chaos is about to ensue, let's stick with Persephone and Hades just a moment. During this time, there isn't a lot of information about what exactly was going down in the underworld, except that, well, Persephone did not want to be there. And she would scream and scream and scream for her mother. And for Hades, well, this was just another work day for him. He promised her that he would give her anything she wanted, apart from leaving. Gardens, gold, jewels, power, anything, because he wanted her to be happy and rule beside him. Chocolate! But our girl Persephone did not agree with any of this. No siree. You brought me to this cold, dead place and you expect me to be happy? Are you crazy? 'Twas an understandably tumultuous start. But what about up on the ground, where the chaos was truly beginning? Okay, I don't want to overmix it. She says, still mixing. Okay, I think this looks wonderful. If any of you guys struggle with putting baking paper inside tins, let me show you how the professionals do it. The evil laugh is optional, but highly encouraged. Just like the pros. Okay, that looks great. Let's pour this in our tin. Oh my god, it smells so good. That butter in my belly. So whilst Demeter was working on the lands, she was interrupted by a group of very distressed, crying oceanid nymphs, claiming that Persephone had just disappeared. They heard nothing and saw nothing, but it was just like poof, and she was gone. However, Demeter, her mother, senses were tingling, and she knew something wasn't right here, and she was gonna find out the truth. First things first, she's got some nymphs to take care of. It was their one job to not let Persephone out of their sight, and they couldn't even do that. So I'll give you something to frolic about. And so Demeter cursed them, I think is a better word. Cursed them with plumed bodies, wings, and scaly feet. Me on a Saturday night. No. Okay. But now they could no longer be called nymphs. They were now considered sirens. And concerns over Persephone's safety were amplified when Demeter began to hear her daughter's immortal cries. Yeah, now she can hear them. Sounds rather convenient now. But her screams for help were kind of like voices bouncing off the cave walls, from the peaks of the mountains to the depths of the sea. Her voice was everywhere and nowhere, an echo with no time nor place. So Demeter tore off her crown, abandoned her duties, threw on a dark cloak to match her mood, and sped off like a bird over land and sea. And for 9 days she did not take any ambrosia or nectar, which is the food of the gods, nor did she bathe her skin in water. And helplessness turned into despair, and soon enough the earth began to reflect that. What do we think? Are we happy with this brownie? Not a trace of chocolate on me. What is happening? Oh yeah. In the oven you go. 25 minutes or longer if you want a brownie less fudgy. Friends, I have some news. News that might make some angry and others throw their arm up. Some of you might cry, but it's okay, I'll cry with you. I prefer my brownies more cakey than fudgy. Okay, let me defend myself, Your Honor. I like it on the cakier side, but still slightly fudgy. Like a medium rare steak. Does that make sense? Well, it's gonna have to. Okay, in the oven. On the 10th day, Demeter was found by Hecate, who is the goddess of witchcraft, to put it simply, magic, witchcraft, the night, who told her that she had been looking desperately to find Demeter for some time now, over the last 9 days, because she heard her daughter's cries and knew something had happened. However, she did not see who was responsible. However, there was someone who they could possibly go see, who is the all-seeing eye of men and gods. For his chariot carries the light of the sun and sees all illuminated by it. Together, with torches blazing in their hands, they set out to visit Helios. So they've arrived to see Helios. Demeter goes up to him and says, "Did you see what happened to my Persephone, the girl that was born to me, a sweet young seedling? Who had taken her, if by force or against her will? Which god or mortal could do such a thing?" Helios replied, and I quote, "Daughter of Rhea." Okay. "Daughter of Rhea with the beautiful hair, Queen Demeter, you shall know the answer, for I greatly respect you and feel sorry for you as you grieve over your child, the one with the delicate ankles. No one else amongst the immortals is responsible except the cloud gatherer Zeus himself, who gave her to Hades as his beautiful wife." He proceeded to explain that it did seem to be against her will, as the seedy man, as Hades seized Persephone, but then proceeds to tell her that basically Hades is kind of a great son-in-law. What more could you ask for? And urges her to stop her loud cry, and then swiftly drew his chariot like long-winged birds and left. This discovery made her grief much worse than before. With this anger at Zeus, she shunned the company of the gods of Olympus and chose to live amongst the mortals. Those peasants. Demeter hid her appearance with her dark cloak. No one could recognize her. Quote, looking like an old woman who had lived through many years. Indeed. She even had 3 women pass her as she lay in the shade of an olive tree. They said, quote, you ain't ready for this. Who are you? And where are you from, old woman? Old amongst old humans? Why, I never. The women who said this were the daughters of King Celeus in Ulysses. After realizing that Demeter had nowhere to go, they welcomed her into their home. This part of the hymn was quite long, so I've given a very brief summary. And so they invited her into the house and they asked her to nurse their infant son. That was kind of a jump, wasn't it? Interesting choice for such an old woman, old amongst old humans, but you do you. For one reason or another, Demeter tries to make this infant son immortal. Potentially it was over the grief of losing her own immortal daughter, or as a way to honor the family, gratitude for their hospitality, or it was common back then for gods to perform tests with mortal children, usually with fire or ambrosia, to make them divine, such as what Thetis did to Achilles. However, Demeter failed, granting this child with immortality, and the family saw what she was doing. They were horrified. Ah, old lady! And so Demeter, hair flick, uncloaked herself, revealing her true form, splendid hair and all, and demanded, build me a temple, fragrant with incense. And once they did, Demeter chose to reside there from then on, where she was, and I quote, wasting away with yearning for her daughter, with the low-slung girdle. And Demeter made that year the most terrible one for mortals. The earth did not send up any seed and was kept hidden, covered underground, and the ox plowed through the fields in vain, and the humans were starving. And Demeter at this moment was on a warpath to destroy the human race. With the lack of food to eat, there was a lack of offerings, such as sacrificial meats to the gods of Olympus. And of course, someone noticed. The someone was Zeus. Brownies are done. Huh. Let's get these troublemakers out of the oven. Okay. Ooh. I ended up cooking them a little bit longer because my oven hates me. It's like always running about 10 degrees colder than it should be. So every time I cook something, it takes 10 to 20 minutes past the recipe time. So usually I have the temperature higher than I'm supposed to. But today I thought, let's try something new. And it was not fudgy, it was just not cooked. Now, I think it is perfect. Oh no, I wish I could pass the smell to you, my friends, because it is quite lovely. Come here, let me give you a sniff. Sounded like the creepiest person. No. Come back. Talking about the brownie. Oh, caramelizing that butter made such a difference. You can smell it. You can smell the caramel butter. Before we try it, we got a ganache to make, but we gotta let it cool down first. Let's continue hungrily with this myth. So, Zeus is interfering, friends. Missing out on his sacrificial meats, deprived from his honors, no good. So Zeus sent Iris with the golden wings to summon Demeter for a chat. We gotta get this sorted out. Iris did as Zeus ordered, ran between the sky and earth quickly with her feet, not her hands, no, and told Demeter that she was summoned to the company of the gods on Olympus. But Demeter would not be so quickly persuaded to go to such a place with such company. And she said, "No, get your quick little feet out of here. I'm staying put." After that, Zeus sent more gods, one after the other. They were offering Demeter gifts and sacrifices. The more she was receiving this bribery, the angrier that Demeter became. She told them she would never go back to fragrant Olympus, and that she would never send up the harvest to the earth until she saw with her own eyes her daughter, the one with the beautiful looks. And now the gods are panicking. Where's my meat? And so Zeus turned to Hermes, the messenger of the gods, thinking that with Hermes' soft words and charm, perhaps he could persuade Hades to release Persephone back up to earth so that her mother may see her and let go of this anger. Goodness gracious me. And straight away, with his winged sandals, Hermes rushes beneath the earth into Hades' misty realm. Once he found Hades, he was sitting on a funeral seat with Persephone by his side, whom was still grieving, you know, from the whole abduction thing. And Hermes explained to Hades, Demeter, she's angry and she's starving the mortals. She's avoiding all the companies of the gods, and she's so far removed. She's seated inside a temple, fragrant with incense. And Zeus has ordered Hermes to bring back Persephone to Demeter. Interestingly enough though, Hades, the king of the dead, smiled with his brows. Am I doing it right? And he turned to Persephone and said, and I quote, "Go, Persephone, to your mother, the one with the dark robe. Do not be too upset, excessively so. I will not be an unseemly husband to you in the company of immortals. If you are here, you will be the queen of everything that lives and moves about, and you will have the greatest Timai in the company of immortals. Those who violate Dike will get punishment for all the days to come. Those who do not supplicate your Menos with sacrifice, performing the rituals in a reverent way, executing perfectly the offerings that are due." Well said, Hades. Well said. And Persephone, well, it's party time, baby. She rejoiced at this. She leapt from her seat, gleaming with joy. Saddle up, Hermes. We're getting the hell out of here. But there was one last trick Hades had up his sleeve to make sure she'll stick around. All right, everybody. It is ganache time. Okay, we're going to heat the cream until it is steaming. Then we're going to add the chocolate and stir. I don't know why I made that so weird. Okay. If you see steam behind me, a fire blazing, let me know. Despite Hades' speech about letting Persephone go back to her mother, it was conditional. There's always a catch. Hades would let Persephone go on the condition that she would eat a honey sweet berry from his pomegranate tree that grows in the underworld. In another version, he just puts the berry in her hand and compels her to eat it. After all, he'll let Persephone go, but you know, not forever. And of course, one way or another, Persephone ate the pomegranate. Ooh. And Persephone, she's ready to go home. Let's get this chariot rolling, Hermes. Hermes controlling the reins. He and Persephone fly away out of the underworld, rushing through the ground, the mountains, high above the peaks they went, slicing through the vast air, to the temple where Demeter was waiting. The mother and daughter ran into each other's arms, holding each other tight. And even Hecate appeared out of nowhere, celebrating the daughter's return. And from that day forward, oh my god, I'm gonna have the chocolate! I thought you'd warned me. And it was from that day forwards that Hecate became, I'm sorry, it's a little dark over here. Nightfall is coming for me. Became Persephone's personal assistant. What am I talking about? Personal attendant and substitute queen. You know, sometimes I just get so wrapped up in these stories, I forget that the cream is boiling. Okay, I think it's just until the chocolate's melted. So the grains of soil were sprouting, what's more, the fields of flowers were blossoming. And you may think, well, all this joy lingering in the air, that everything's fine now. But you'd be wrong. Here's my ganache. Because nothing really has been solved. Hades still wants Persephone in the underworld, and Demeter still wants her daughter with her. Okay, let's pour this on. Pomegranate time. Oh, they're coming out clumpy. Maybe my fingers would be better. My hands are clean, don't you worry. Oh, yes. That is a vast improvement. Apparently, pomegranate and chocolate go well together. But we shall see. Let's add some salt. Love some salt on my chocolate. This bad boy over here, going in the fridge. To the fridge you go. All right. Where is Persephone going? What is happening? So to solve this issue, who is Persephone staying with? Zeus made an order to enforce time spent with both of them. Now she was bound to the underworld. She has to spend time there whether she likes it or not. So Persephone would spend a third of the year with Hades in the underworld, in which the plants on earth would die. Trees fall from leaves. Great writing, Laura. The leaves would fall from the tree. Winter is coming. And the rest of the year would be spent with Demeter, and upon her return, the flowers would sprout, fruits would grow, the lands would be fertile once more, bringing forth spring and summer. Fun fact, the hymn of Demeter was created to explain the seasonal changes in ancient Greece. Hello friends! The ganache on top of the brownies took far longer than expected to solidify. Now we finally get to try some. Let's wrap up this video, give some thoughts. Dangerous things, I know. Let's get this brownie out first. Uh-oh. What's this? There appears to be a piece missing. What a mystery. I wonder what happened last night. Yes, I did have some last night. Guilty. But the ganache was half hard, half soft. So I kind of want to see what it's like properly, you know? If I have to. If you guys insist I have another try, who am I to turn down the wants and needs of the people? My knife for ants would be perfect right now. Ugh. Maybe this knife for ants was not a good idea. Let's give you a close-up. Looks like on top. The sun is just not working in my favor. Let's try to do it this way. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Or should we wrap up first? The abduction of Persephone. It is an interesting tale, is it not? Especially with how it's been interpreted and romanticized over the years. Don't get me wrong, I am quite the romantic. However, I wanted to approach this myth knowing how it's been portrayed over the years and go in with a very open, fresh mind. I'll tell you what, My thoughts were on two extremes. I thought on one end it was going to be really romantic, that perhaps didn't start with the best intentions but ended fine for them. They were happy and in love. At the very least, their feelings for each other were mutual. And on the other side, I thought it's going to be quite horrific and traumatic, and I'm gonna, oh god, that people write love stories about this, oh god. Because some of these Greek myths, they go to some dark places. I'm looking at you, Aeschylus. Excuse me. The story was far more heavily focused on the journey of a mother's grief searching for her daughter. Maybe this comes down to the popularization of forbidden love and opposites attract, monster maiden, that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not here to give you a breakdown about that. I'm just here to retell the myths and big brownies. And I think also Hades gets a bit more credibility than a lot of the other gods because one of the very few Greek gods who doesn't cheat, doesn't abuse his partners, and when he's in a relationship he seems to be very committed to them and their happiness and committed to the whole long distance relationship thing with the seasons. But I'll leave it up to you for your interpretation. Now, let's dig into this a little hard to get a slice, but it's very good. The pomegranates on top, what a delightful surprise. They're not super sweet, so they kind of add this tartness to all the sweetness in the chocolate and little juicy bursts of flavor, and it's quite refreshing. It's quite nice. If someone came to me and brought a slice of this, I would think that they had bought it from a shop with a professional baker who had spent their years perfecting the brownie, and it was really easy to make. So if you have someone in your life that you got your eye on, want to make a move, or that you love deeply, you want to give them something really nice and they like chocolate, make them this. Thank me later. I will leave the recipe links down below. And thank you for spending some time with me today. Subscribe if you would like to. A little red button brings me so much joy. Feel free to suggest me in the comments any myth you would like me to cover or retell, and even better if you compare it with a recipe. And I will see you next time. Ciao!